Hello and welcome to Section 4 Finals, Lesson 2, Combinations with A. So now we're going to start looking at various combinations of the basic sounds, and we're starting with those that are spelled with A. And so here are some questions we're going to answer. So first we're going to go through these basic combinations, and that's I, ow, an, and ang. So those four. We are also going to look at maybe some spelling rules, or at least talk about spelling rules a little bit. So let's recap briefly what we talked about vowels in the previous lesson. And I know I did this in the previous lesson, I'm just doing it here because this is typically not something you can just listen to once or even do once and then you just get it. It takes a while and you need to experiment a bit. But just to remind ourselves of the basics, tongue position creates different vowels. So how we position the tongue, how far forward, how far back it is, and we use the words close and open to mean how far up or down it is, and then front and back to say how far forward or back in the mouth it is. And of course, we've also talked about lip rounding, which is not really something we need to worry about in this lesson, but we will talk about it in future lessons. So let's look at this chart again, and just as a reminder, it is a side view. So you're looking at it like that. So the front is of course close to your teeth. So if you say something like e, you should feel that your tongue is pretty far forward. And if you say u, you should feel that it's pretty far back. And if you transition between those two, e, u, you should feel your tongue moving back and forth. You are also rounding your lips for u, but that is not really relevant here. I'm after the position of the tongue here. So e, yeah. And this is something that sounds stupid when you're doing it, but it can be kind of fun too. And the thing is that you can say these sounds. That's not really the problem. I mean, most of us speak all the time and make similar noises all day. But it's a different thing to just say them and do it intuitively and be able to feel what it is that creates these differences. What are you doing with your tongue that makes these different sounds come out? And like I've said, this is something that will help you when you're dealing with sounds that are actually quite difficult, because then you can kind of control what you're saying in a different way. It's not like you're just listening and hearing something weird and you try to say it and you have no idea why it sounds like that or what comes out or how to indeed to make the sound. So it is quite helpful to experiment with this, maybe not in public transport, but it is kind of nice to play around with this and learn a bit about how this works. And next, if we go from close to open, we can go from E to A, ya, like that. So do that a few times. Yeah, and we pass through yeah, and so on. Yeah, and so on, if you want to make it more, gradual. So let's move on. Well, I should say that we also have the upside down E in the middle. That's not really part of this, it's just a relaxed central vowel. And then you can also note that we have two different A sounds, and I will get back to that in a second. So one is front and one is back. But as this chart indicates, the difference between the two is not that big. It's not even close as big as the difference between E and U, for example, which is very big. Okay, so let's look at our first combination. And so this is spelled AI in pinyin and is pronounced I. And this is nothing strange here, it's just a combination of these two, so it doesn't behave in any unexpected way or anything. So I, so can you feel that your tongue is moving in the direction of the arrow? So I, like that. So let's look at a few examples. There is nothing else really here going on, it's just straight transition, as I said. So, for example, to love is I. And then we have to come, lie. And then we have to buy, my. And maybe you could hear this here, but it's usually the case that we don't go all the way up to E. So people don't say I, and they don't say lie, and they don't say my. You stop a little bit short of that. So when I said to buy, for example, I said my. You stop a little bit short of the extreme here. So let's move on to the next one. And all the ones we're dealing with in this lesson, all of course start at the bottom with these A sounds. That's why they are in this lesson. So the next one is spelled A-O in pinyin. And